What is up, creators? This is Tom. Welcome back to another video. Now, I have finally got my hands on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. So in this one, what I'm going to be doing is breaking down my camera rig setup for you. Now, this is actually the first time that I've properly built a camera rig. Previously with other mirrorless cameras, I've never really sort of felt the need to. So it's been a super interesting project for me, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I've gone through a few different variations, so just a few things that I've been playing around with. And I have found some videos online super helpful, so I'll link those down below from some other creators if you want to watch those. I'll also link to all of the products that I've used to build this rig down below in the comments. What I've gone for is keeping the system sort of as compact as possible. I've seen videos of just enormous rigs that I just don't really have the need or desire for, but at the same time it is a rig that will get you taken seriously with clients, and it has enough weight behind it that you can shoot some decent handheld footage as well. Without further ado though, let's jump into the build. Alright, so we're going to kick off with the obviously the camera, the main sort of bulk of the rig. So that is obviously the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. Haven't shot of it a ton yet, but really excited to do so. And on it, I have the Sigma 18 to 35mm f1.8 lens. This is for APS-C lenses, and I'm boosting that with a Viltrox speed booster for Micro Four Thirds. I haven't really felt the need to upgrade right now to a Metabones adapter, but who knows, maybe I'll do that in the future. The cage of choice that I'm using is the small rig cage for Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera. This will work for the 4K and the 6K version, so pretty much this whole rig is applicable for those cameras. You just sort of mount it and screw it in at the bottom, and then you're good to go. Something I don't see a lot in these build videos, these rig build videos, is this small rig tool, and it is so important. You get so many different threads and different sizes of Allen key, and this will just sort that out for you, so a real quick tip there. Next we have the small rig Metabones adapter. Now this specifically will sort of screw in to your speed booster, either Metabones or Viltrox. Fully works with the Viltrox, as you can see here. I've already sort of got this pre-installed on my cage just because it was such a faff to take on and off, but once you've done it, you won't need to mess around with that all too much. But as you can see, that screws on, and it will take all of the weight off your speed booster or of your lenses and actually mount it into the camera itself, so it just sort of takes a lot of the strain off the camera body. So there we go, so that's tightened up. Now we've got the Metabones mount and the cage done, and this Allen key, if you don't have the small rig little penknife thing, can just slot straight into the underneath of the cage, which is a nice little feature of the small rig cage. Okay, for storage, one of the huge advantages of this camera is it can shoot directly to an SSD, which I absolutely love. So I'm using the this Samsung T5 small rig mount that just goes on the left side of the cage. It's all very easy. We just sort of screw that onto the side using these two super small little screws. Once that's done, we can take the T5 and just sort of slot it into the slot here, nice and easy, and then just tighten that up and we're ready to go. Next up we have the top handle. I'm using a quick release setup with my top handle. So I'm just going to mount the actual quick release bracket. That just goes on with two screws, as you can see. I'm pressing it as far over as I can near the SSD, and then we can just slot the top handle. This is the small rig NATO grip, I believe it's called, and it has a rubber texture and a rubber feel to it, and that can just slot straight on nice and easy, and then just tighten it up and you're ready to go. Okay, so next on the shopping list is this small rig baseplate, and these are 8-inch rods that I'm just inserting in there and tightening. This is what will mount to tripods or any sort of slightly larger setup. Also gives a bit of weight to the rig, and of course, most importantly for rods, it lets you mount other accessories. If you wanted things like a follow focus on, things like that, you could probably just extend the rods. I've gone for 8 inches because I want the setup to be fairly compact, but as I said, larger rods are definitely an option, and this just sort of screws into the bottom of the camera cage, just like this, nice and easy. And then as you can see, our rig is definitely starting to take shape now. Okay, so let's talk monitors. Now I'm using the Atomos Shinobi monitor for this build. This is sort of a mid-tier monitor. It's certainly more expensive than some of the cheaper ones on the market, but not a crazy expensive model. I just basically need it to be relatively compact, decent value, and just bright enough in sort of daylight that it is obviously usable. I power this using these Sony NPF batteries just to minimize on wires for the setup. I don't want another wire going to my monitor. It's also just useful to have a couple of big NPFs fully charged when you're on a shoot. And the mount is actually slightly different than I showed in some of those intro shots. This is actually the dedicated monitor mount by SmallRig. The angle is just extremely good. I sort of toyed around with having just a ball head at one point, but this is just, I'm thoroughly glad that I went for this option. It gives me a lot more versatility when shooting. I mounted it off to the right of the rig, just means I have to balance the battery later on a bit to the left to balance that out, but definitely really good option for mounting the monitor, viewable at every angle, easily reversible, so yeah, a great option. So all that's left to do with that one is to screw the monitor on itself. As you can see, easily reversible each side, which is great. Then we can just mount the battery in, give that a little click, and there, yeah, we are definitely getting close. Just a few more components to do. Okay, another one where I'm slightly cheating. I've got these already stuck together again just because they're a bit of a faff to undo. This is the V-mount plate for V-mount batteries by SmallRig, and the 15mm rail clamps, which just slot onto the back of these rails, as you can see, and then very easily we can basically slot my V-mount battery on here. This is a V-mount battery I found on Amazon, has capacity to last for about 6 to 7 hours of shooting, which is more than enough for the type of projects that I work on, and that just clicks onto the back of the setup just like this, and really helps with the weight distribution, gives it was otherwise very top heavy, so this really evens that out. Okay, so now we move on to the cables that are going to power the rig, and this is a coiled HDMI, and it's actually by Atomos. Basically just means that it can be short or long depending on your setup, and we also have a coiled D-tap power cable as well, and this will power from the V-mount battery into the Pocket Cinema Camera. Just pull off this port cover right here on the battery, and then you can go ahead and thread the D-tap into the camera's ports. I've subsequently found out that you can take off these little rubber door protectors, which I think is just an awesome tip. It's non-destructive. You can put it back in if you have something sort of pointy, but for when you're running a setup like this, that is a great choice. Before we go ahead and actually put the HDMI and USB-C cable into the camera, I'm going to go ahead and put this cable clamp in as well. This is just a tool which can secure both of those cables in place and means that you won't ever lose storage or signal to your HDMI feed. Definitely recommended if you're going to be using accessories with the Pocket 4K or 6K. There we go, that's that one in and then connected up to the Atomos Shinobi monitor. And then we just have the USB-C to USB-C cable, and this is actually one that came with the Samsung T5. I'm just using the one straight out of the box, and luckily it always has this little Velcro clip on as well that I can use to Velcro it to the coiled HDMI as well. So that is pretty much the entire rig. I am just going to tighten up these cable clamp here, and as you can see, those cables are going nowhere now, so a bit of extra security whilst shooting. All done fairly minimal, I think, for a full kitted out Blackmagic Cinema rig. The nice thing about this is fairly stable and well balanced. As I mentioned, the battery is offset slightly to the left to account for the monitor weight on the right, but you can see from this shot that it is fairly stable and balanced only on a couple of my fingers here. I've had a couple of comments about how I'm going to focus on this rig. Now, you could definitely extend the setup with a follow focus. I've not necessarily gone for that. I'm pretty much happy running and gunning, focusing either on sticks or focusing beforehand. I just don't think I'm going to be doing a ton of sort of moving subject work right now, so that's why I haven't done a follow focus setup. Another really nice option with this setup is that you can just change the way the battery mounts. If you're on a tripod and you want to see the back screen of the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera, you can just mount the battery underneath like it's done here, or you can even lay it flat. Lots of different options. there we go, guys. That is the rig build. Hopefully you guys found it interesting or informative. If you guys have any questions on the rig, just drop a comment down below and I will do my best to answer. Building a rig like this does take time and you need to sort of figure out the right products for you. So talking about it as much as possible beforehand is a really good approach. So like I said, drop a comment and I will do my best to answer it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more content on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera, and I will catch you guys next time.